Hello there, very good evening and welcome to your Primetime News Bulletin. I'm Shane Silva.
And I'm Nicola D'Souza. We start off with the headlines.
Austin Fernando resigns as Secretary to the President. The National Audit Bill passed with amendments. The opposition accuses that the draft bill has been weakened due to timely amendments. Mobile phones and SIM cards found in the prison cell of Arjun Aloysius and Kasun Palisena. Monetary Board extends suspension of Perpetual Treasuries Limited business. Field Marshal Minister Sarath Fonseca says 220 kilograms of gold was seized in the north.
Secretary to the President Austin Fernando has resigned from his position.
The President's Media Division confirmed this to Newsfirst. Austin Fernando previously served as a governor for the Eastern Province and also served as an advisor to the President.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe made clarifications in Parliament today regarding the development projects in the country.
From 2011 to date, the Hambantota port has incurred a loss of $48 billion. We had two options. One was to decide that this loan agreement was an illegal one and move ahead, and the other alternative was to hold talks with the Chinese government. The priority was to hold discussions with the Chinese government and to find a solution. Even the President held talks with the Chinese government. Later, a team of ministers including Nimal Siripala, Malik Samaravikram and myself held talks with the Chinese government in Beijing. The request made by China was that we call for tenders from China for the operations of the port. So we called for open tenders from China. Among the tenders we received, the most beneficial one was China Merchants Port Holdings Company Limited. They agreed for an investment of $1,080 million. The Chinese president and his government fully agreed to this. So on the 8th of December 2016, I received cabinet approval to enter into an agreement to establish a joint venture company between China Merchants Port Holdings Company Limited and Sri Lanka Ports Authority to handle the operations of the Hambantota port. Thereby, China Merchants Port Holdings Company Limited paid the government of Sri Lanka a sum of $293 million on the 22nd of December 2017 and a sum of $97 million on the 28th of January 2018. The remaining $584 million has now been paid to the Sri Lanka Ports Authority. Just like a port with no ships coming in, there is also an airport in Mattala with no flights coming in. But we did not get a positive response on that, which is why we are in talks with India on that matter. Therefore, it is my belief that in the future we will be able to free ourselves from the Mattala airport as well and make it an airport with flights actually coming in. Honestly speaking, if China had made demands, we could have given the airport to them as well.
As far as I know, the loans obtained for the Hambantota port are still being paid by the Sri Lanka Ports Authority. Once this loan is settled, the Ports Authority will make profits. The loans obtained for the Mattala airport are being paid by Sri Lankan Airlines. Even while paying these loans in installments, this is a profit-making institution. So the debt burden of these two institutions have not affected the treasury. One loan is being paid off by the Ports Authority. Though you have sold it off and taken the money, they are still paying.
This money has been added to our reserves. Even if the Ports Authority or whoever pays it, the money is with us. So the debt burden has reduced and our reserves have increased. There are two parts in the New York Times story and only one part affected me. So I will make a statement on that. I thought my fellow MP would make a statement about the other part, but he is completely silent about it.
Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa's media division today issued a statement with regard to the New York Times article.
The statement from former President Mahinda Rajapaksa's media division notes the New York Times newspaper has not published the reply to the allegations sent to them by MP Namal Rajapaksa. It adds the New York Times had published Mahinda Rajapaksa's response as inconspicuously as possible in their latest article. The statement goes on to say New York Times is not fair even to the incumbent president of the United States and cannot be expected to be fair towards the former president of Sri Lanka. This is what the statement says with regard to the allegation that China Harbour Company had contributed a large sum of money to former President Mahinda Rajapaksa's 2015 presidential election campaign. Quote, as for the money that is supposed to have been given for former President Mahinda Rajapaksa's 2015 presidential election campaign by China Harbour Company, the present government did not suspend the activities of all Chinese construction companies in Sri Lanka to check on their engineering credentials or their project experiences. End quote.
The joint opposition convened a media briefing to comment on the Hambantota report. When the Hambantota report was sold, the agreement signed was not the agreement tabled in Parliament. It is being proven. The Navy has to make payments for the operations of the Navy camp in the port. The government has misled Parliament and the entire country. The stance of Mahinda Rajapaksa is that he does not contest in America and the Americans cannot vote for him. He does not mind what the Americans think of him. We cannot stop certain media in the country for publishing that article. It must be made clear that if the state media is planning on slinging mud, we will take legal action in the future.
Deputy Minister Ranjan Ramanayake, speaking in Parliament, commented on the New York Times expose.
This is regarding the audit of the Hambantota report. It was calculated that it cost $1,320 million for the construction of the Hambantota port. But what was the bid put forward by this dubious company? It was 720 million rupees. We cannot even say it was from the government of China. Where did the balance amount go to? Today, the matter of ascertaining whose pockets were lined up with this will have to be audited by the Auditor General's Department. Many things are being reported via the New York Times. The international editor of the New York Times has written how the money had moved. This was reported by a journalist named Maria Abi Habib. She says $7.6 million was given to former President Mahinda Rajapaksa and $38,000 were given to L.A. Gunawanthatero. Today it is reported that 18 million rupees was given to the Pushpa Rajapaksa Foundation, which belongs to Pushpa Rajapaksa, the wife of former Minister Basil Rajapaksa. It has come from the Chinese companies. I do not know why the Chinese would be depositing such an amount of money to the account of Pushpa Rajapaksa. What is the meaning of that? To understand that, we need to have an audit. I have spoken with the Auditor General Gamini Vijayasinghe and he informed me that if Parliament is providing him with powers, they are bound to audit any given matter. I am making an honest request with regard to the robbery that took place in broad daylight. Why is there no audit performed on the funds of political parties? The world's most fraudulent activities take place in the funds of political parties. I am referring to all the parties. From where does the money come for party funds? How is it being used? There is no audit on these matters. If those matters were exposed, it will be proven that what Maria Abi Habib of the New York Times has published is 100% true and accurate. It will also prove what international editor Michael also said about the matter. The collective of citizens' organizations convened a media briefing today. A person who has a fear of jumpers is becoming the presidential candidate from the Mahinda Rajapaksa camp. He is a person with jumper mania. He is afraid to spend even one night in jail. Yet they speak about heroes. They speak like Atlas, but they are afraid of going to jail for even one night. When he appears for cases, he requests that he is not arrested. They are about to make a person who has a fear of jumpers as their presidential candidate. What politics is this? Though he boasts about it, we can have an understanding of what war that he engaged in.
What happened to gold discovered in the north during the war? Minister Field Marshal Sarath Fonseca commented at an evening in Kelaniya today.
They must have been moved to temple trees after I retired as commander of the army. During my time, we seized more than 220 kilograms of gold. We handed over them to the Vaunia police and provided documentation to take the required legal steps. Whatever step followed should have been done by the Ministry of Defence. Now they have failed to say what happened and are remaining silent. Therefore, I have my suspicions as well.
The draft of the National Audit Bill was passed in Parliament with amendments today. The draft bill was passed without a vote.
The National Audit Bill was a key pledge of the good governance government and was to be adopted within the first 100 days of this government coming into power.
The National Audit Commission was among the independent commissions mentioned in the 19th Amendment to the Constitution.
Members of the Commission have also been appointed.
The big areas of concern was the power audit. Secondly has been the duties of the Chief Accounting Officer as Secretary and of the accounting officers. They are held responsible. How are the directions to be on? So this actually, it was only when the Audit Commission bill came in and the disputes are taking place. For instance, I realized, having been in government, how detailed the working out of the government expenditure and the audit was, that it cut through all the three different branches of government. So these were issues that had been sorted. Even after we tabled the bill in April, there were still amendments coming in from some of the public bodies. But all have been accommodated now, and I hope these are satisfactory bill, and when it becomes law, we must give a chance for this law to come in, to be executed.
The question we have is, are they going to make the Auditor General and officials of the department empty scarecrows by removing their bones, blood, flesh and veins to publicize something called the National Audit Bill? We propose 16 proposals as amendments which bring this back to life. The way it is now, the thieves, fraudsters, abusers of state finances, criminals and central bank thieves are never going to be afraid of what will be passed here, because nothing will happen to them. This bill proposes to impose a maximum fine of 100,000 rupees for an offence. You have presented an amendment today to reduce this 100,000 rupee fine further to 5,000 rupees. So even if you rob millions of rupees, rob the central bank, the CB, or if any official or ministry secretary aids and abets you to commit a robbery, you are fined 5,000 rupees according to this National Audit Bill. We propose to make the minimum fine 5,000 rupees. I have the cabinet paper signed by the Prime Minister himself, the Minister of National Policies, after it had been discussed at the Sectoral Oversight Committee and Finance Committee as well as Cabinet. I am tabling this cabinet paper now. This cabinet paper proposes to reduce the 100,000 rupee fine to 5,000 rupees. The first clause in the bill has limited the Auditor General subject where all expenses made through the consolidated fund should be audited.
The penal code nor any other criminal law gets abolished when this act is brought in. If there has been a fraud in the central bank bond issue, this law can be followed. There is no such thing where it could be recorded as a minor offence and ended from there. The country's criminal law remains as it is. Do not undermine this act like you are doing now.
If the process of imposing surcharges is required, it can be postponed until the person goes on pension, because nowhere does it mention here when the disciplinary action can be concluded. The other issue is there is a surcharge appeal committee which is appointed by the Constitutional Council. This means that no one in the National Audit Service can come into this. So anyone with an expertise in auditing will have to come in. Where can you find someone like that? It would have to be a private auditor.
It would be a retired auditor who would be appointed. That is how the appointments for the other commissions were made as well.
It is the secretaries who have the power to decide whether or not it is suitable to impose this offence on officials who are not ministry secretaries. But it is the President who is vested with the power of imposing offences on secretaries. This act has not fulfilled justice for the secretaries, as it does not mention the process a secretary has to follow to file an appeal.
The offence will be decided after this appeals process. Imposing offences will happen under the normal procedure. Offences concerning the secretary will also take place after the appeals, and it will be implemented by the President, because it is the President who has the power to make the appointments.
It says reports on internal audits have to be sent to the Auditor General's department. You have removed this. Even after it has been presented to Parliament, there are new cabinet amendments coming in this morning. It proposes to reduce the 100,000 rupee fine to 5,000 rupees. Stop the internal audit reports from being sent to the Auditor General. Remove the power of the Auditor General of issuing recommendations to auditors, and for institutions taken over by the government to be made state institutions. Are you crazy? Why would you do this?
Honourable Minister Vijayadasa Rajapaksa said when he tried to bring in this act in 2004, he wasn't allowed to do so. I would like to know, who was it that did not allow you to bring this act in 2004?
It was when we were members of the Legal Commission in 2004. After the bill was drafted, we completed it by 2005. You must ask that question from the government which was in power since 2005.
Startling revelations were made when the case pertaining to the central bank treasury bond scam were taken up at the 4th Magistrates Court today. Newsfirst.lk Farzan filed this report.
The beneficial owner of Perpetual Treasuries Limited, Arjun Aloysius, and its CEO, Kasun Palisena, were produced before 4th Magistrate Lanka Jayaratna today and were further remanded until the 19th of July. Today, the chairman of the Perpetual Group, Jeffrey Joseph Aloysius, submitted a report on assets and liabilities as requested by court. On behalf of the Attorney General's Department and the CID, Additional Solicitor General Yasantha Kodagoda produced the interim findings report on the investigations carried out by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. According to central bank regulations, all securities transactions performed by a primary dealer must be recorded in their books as well as in the RTGS and CDS systems in the central bank. The central bank investigation has now found, though a number of transactions have been recorded in the PTL books, they have not been entered into the CBSL systems. The Additional Solicitor General pointed out this act is in violation of the monetary law and is a criminal offence. He also went on to state, since these are related to securities, they are predicated offences as per the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, adding that in this context, Perpetual Treasuries Limited, W.M. Mendis and Company Limited, as well as any third party that benefited from this are culpable. The interim report says, from the 1st of February 2015 to 30th September 2016, there were unreported transactions between PTL and W.M. Mendis to the tune of 173.8 million rupees. PTL had acted in contrary to the market trends that existed. When questioned by the magistrate why these transactions went unnoticed, Additional Solicitor General said, how could that be possible when the father-in-law is the governor of the central bank? It has come to light during the aforementioned period, W.M. Mendis and company had released 2,487 cash cheques to the value of 1,134 million rupees. On the 29th of last month, a raid had been carried out in the H ward of the remand prison where Arjun Aloysius is held, and prison officials have recovered 3 mobile phones and 5 SIM cards. One phone was discovered between the pillow and mattress of Aloysius, an allegation which he denies. Investigations will continue on these devices as well. In addition, court issued an order on the directors of Perpetual Treasuries Limited, Jeffrey Joseph Aloysius, Jeffrey Anton Aloysius, Ranjan Hulugalle, Pushya Gunawardana, Arjan Punchiheva, Muthuraja Surendran and Shiran Sanjeeva to obtain permission from court when travelling overseas.
The Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka has extended the suspension of Perpetual Treasuries Limited.
A statement from the central bank notes the Monetary Board, acting in terms of the regulations made under the Registered Stock and Securities Ordinance and the Local Treasury Bills Ordinance, has decided to extend the suspension of Perpetual Treasuries Limited from carrying on the business and activities of a primary dealer for a period of 6 months with effect from today. This is being done in order to continue the investigations being conducted by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. It has transpired that Mihin Lanka Private Limited had enjoyed BOI benefits in an apparently illegal manner. Newsfirst.lk Farzan filed this report.
Director for Project Monitoring at the Board of Investments, Renuka Veerakon, testified before the Commission today. She was questioned on the letter sent by the CEO of Mihin Lanka, Kapila Chandrasena, in 2009 to the Investments Department at the BOI, requesting for the capital condition be reduced. However, the Monitoring Department had not received that letter but received a similar letter a year later. From the evidence, it transpired that the BOI has not taken any decision regarding the request, and since 2009, Mihin Lanka has enjoyed all the benefits that was given to them since inception. The Commission noted the CEO and Director General of the BOI would be summoned if required to elaborate on these matters. The Commission added, for some unknown reason, no follow-up action had been taken on the matter by the BOI.
Locals claim they are yet to receive compensation and proper estimates for the lands taken over for the construction of Phase 3 of the Central Expressway.
Cabinet has already given approval to hand over the construction of Phase 3 of the Central Expressway from Potohara to Kalagedara to Taisei Corporation, Japan, and to secure a 100 billion yen loan for the project from a Japanese state bank. It was Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, as the Minister of National Policies and Economic Affairs, who had put forward the proposal to secure the loan from a Japanese state bank.
Japan yen.
They say 100 billion yen was secured. What are they doing with this money? It is not given to the people. Development in the country means the development of its citizens. For what purpose are they using this money?
Many who lost their lands for the construction state, there is no proper justifiable system of providing compensation in place. Lands in Bulgolla, Wavula, Kandulagala and Walagamulla, which will be taken over for the constructions, have already been marked.
They are paying 962,000 for my house. With the current real estate prices, I cannot even imagine building a house for 962,000 rupees. They are paying 100,000 for this well. I will lose all these paddy lands. They are paying 7,500 rupees per perch. We cannot purchase paddy lands again. This is a grave injustice that is taking place. For the past 5 years, we are distressed due to this expressway. We are unable to engage in cultivations.
Providing the contract for the construction to Taisei Corporation Japan raised eyebrows in the recent days. On a number of occasions, we reported that Taisei Corporation was responsible for a giant sinkhole in Japan as well. Since it took the government 190 days to take over the project for the Colombo Outer Circular Expressway, Taisei had recently made a request for a payment of 4 billion rupees for the delay. Taisei had warned if an immediate decision is not made with regard to the amount in question, there would be an impact on the construction of Phase 3 of the Central Expressway.
Newsfirst spoke to Auditor General Mr. Gamini Vijayasinghe soon after the National Audit Bill was passed.
The National Audit Bill being passed is a victory for the people of the whole country.
Some say that the powers that are vested with the Auditor General have been cut off through the amendments.
The powers of the Auditor General are mentioned in the Constitution of the country. An act is something that falls below the Constitution. There is no problem about the powers. The problem is about strengthening the Auditor General's department. That is what has been arranged through this act. That was something that went hand in hand with the 19th Constitutional Amendment. What is important is the establishment of an independent National Audit Commission and through it to make the Auditor General independent. That will be a new experience of the whole country in the days to come. There were serious issues about the independence in the past. There were issues in the financial independence as well as the administrative independence. Both those points are well addressed in this bill that was passed today. There will be an independent audit office in the country as a result of this act.
The most popular topic was the surcharge power. What has happened to the surcharge power?
There are no major changes. The only change that has taken place is that the person who is imposing the surcharge powers is the Ministry Secretary. The basics with regard to the surcharge powers, the role of the Auditor General when imposing a surcharge will remain the same. There is no major issue. In terms of this act, we are at a positive situation.
A conference for the heads of state-owned enterprises was held in Colombo today. Addressing the event, Minister of Finance and Mass Media, Mangala Samaravira, hit out at the level of mismanagement of state-owned enterprises.
Today I was told that there are heads of over 55 important SOEs present here from strategically important public ventures. Out of the 55 SOEs, 39 recorded a net profit around 136 billion, while 16 made net losses amounted to rupees 87 billion in 2017. However, despite their strategic importance, the SOEs have not achieved full potential. The reason for such underperformance ranges from lack of good governance practices, including a lack of clear accountability mechanism, policy and legal frameworks, to a weak supervisory role. In the recent years, the performance of some SOEs has been a source of concern for the fiscal balance. In 2017, 4 of the main loss-making SOEs were the Ceylon Electricity Board, Sri Lankan Airlines, Satosa, and Agriculture and Agrarian Insurance Board. The combined loss was 84 billion rupees of these organizations. I may say this as a dismal performance that creates public outcry over the mismanagement of our national resources. We cannot pass on the cost of inefficiency on to the consumer. or the general public, and therefore it is essential that SOEs eliminate management and inefficiencies prior to the implementation of fully cost-effective pricing. It is important that the board and the senior management exhibit due diligence, given that resources under their custody are none other than public property.
The 89th Model Village under the Samatasavana Yalipidibidana Udagamana program was vested with the public today under the auspices of Deputy Leader of the UNP, Minister Sajith Premadasta.
The newly constructed Situam Kanda Model Village in Thalgasyaya, Matale, comprises of 25 houses and was built at a cost of 28.3 million rupees. The minister presented title deeds to 25 beneficiaries at the event. Meanwhile, 476 low-income families were handed over loans worth 47.6 million rupees, while 150 benefactors were handed over Sundur PS housing loans worth 30 million rupees. Another 124 benefactors were handed over housing loans worth 6.2 million rupees, while 152 were handed over professional equipment, uniforms, books, while spectacles were given to another 100 individuals.
Can the so-called leaders who talk about paving the path to mansions do these even in their dreams? Dear friends, keep aside the construction of houses. I challenge that the so-called big shots can't even walk alongside me. I like to tell that anyone can dream of becoming president or prime minister. They work thinking ahead of their future. Now look at those faces. They are very lovable faces. Why? Because they want to go back to the mansions. They want to eat there again. They don't have intentions of serving the people who struggle for food. They are not coming to distribute lands. They are not coming to strengthen the general public. Their wish is to fulfill their personal agendas. I am prepared to face any challenge, never falter for any reason.
UNP parliamentarian Mujibur Rahman, speaking in Parliament yesterday, commented on television frequencies.
A firm by the name of Skynet is moving about Europe and England to sell frequencies. We are faced with an issue today as to how that is happening. We have questions over the conduct of the Telecommunications Regulatory Commission. Who gave this power to Skynet? Who gave them the right to go overseas and sell frequencies? Who gave them the authority to do so? This is an issue. Though it is not under the Ministry of Finance, this is public property. This needs to be looked into.
There appears to be mixed signals from the government of Sri Lanka on its policy on foreign direct investments. Statements by 3 senior members of the government to the Ceylon FT yesterday has added to the confusion.
Amid heightening calls from the private sector for tax incentives, including tax holidays for FDIs, the government has hinted it would accommodate private sector concessions on a case-by-case basis. The private sector suggests that concessions or tax holidays is a key ingredient to kickstart FDIs and investment by the local economy. Speaking to the Ceylon FT, Minister of Strategic Development and International Trade Malik Samaravikrama said there won't be corporate tax levies from FDIs until investors fully recover the cost of investment. State Minister of Finance Iran Vikramaratne, however, says otherwise. Vikramaratne says the government was in fact willing to consider the request from the private sector, though the existing structure of incentives for the private sector being there even as of now. The State Minister adds the present structure of incentives was such that they were awarded on the basis of the quantum of investments brought in, and bigger the FDIs, the bigger the concessions would be. State Minister of National Policies and Economic Affairs Dr. Harsha De Silva meanwhile said the government will make an attempt to accommodate firm private sector requests, but they have to be within the existing structure.
Providing concessions to the investors, foreign investors who bring in foreign investment into this country is definitely an important subject. One minister says that the quantum of tax will be determined at the end of the period after the FDI investor recovers his full amount. I don't know what he means by the recovery. Unfortunately, for some reason or the other, if the investor happens to make a loss, I think he will evade giving any tax or paying any tax into this country. The second minister says, no, we are deciding the concession according to the quantum, the amount of foreign investment that is brought into the country. And the third minister says, no, we are open to suggestions by the investors. We want to provide them all the concessions possible. one thing is certain, they are desperately in need of inviting the foreign investors to come into this country under any terms or under any possibility to bring them down here. They are at a loss totally, so we call upon the ministers, instead of talking about these strange and highly impracticable tax solutions, concessions, you put the house in order and have economic stability and have political stability in this country.
Former President of Sri Lanka Cricket, Thilanga Sumathipala, expressed the following views at a press conference held in Colombo.
There has always been talks about the constitution of SLC. Even I like to change a few things in the constitution. But the interim committees in the past 10 years never attempted on making changes of at least a single letter in the constitution. The constitution of SLC must be changed by those in SLC. If there are any amendments to be done, we can discuss openly, and we would also wish to see our ideas included in it. I will be contesting for the post of president at the next SLC election. A group consisting of 2 former presidents and some members of the interim board have signed a letter containing false statements. We have provided answers to them through legal means, and also we call on them for an open forum to explain their views and also prove our stance in front of the media or the subject minister, so all the parties can prove their points in a fair manner.
And with that, we wrap up tonight's primetime news. Thank you for joining us. For the News First team, I'm Nicola De Souza.
And I'm Shane Silva. Tonight on Hot Seat, the General Secretary of the United National Front, Attorney at Law Maitri Gunaratne, is asked if the Prime Minister has the moral right to continue in his position.
Join TV1 right after the news. Good night.